Bagel dogs, a fantastic staple of American airports. He begins with almond flour, the base of all low-carb baking. He then adds an enormous amount of garlic powder. You will scare the vampires away. A generous pinch of salt, because what's better than a salty, scared vampire? And 2 heaping tablespoons of coconut flour. He then proceeds to add black pepper, because he is a black pepper fiend. He then pulls out a 4-pronged sword. What he will do with this is mix the mixture. This ensures even, dry blend. He cracks an avian egg, all of it, into the mixture. And again, using his he dropped it. So you get your floor dirty. He begins mixing the mixture until it's nice and crumbly, as if he were making biscuits, which he is not. Making sure his 4-pronged sword is clean, he sets it aside. Next, he grabs shredded mozzarella cheese, the low moisture kind. He adds the right amount and decides that's sufficient. Not exact, but good enough. In he brings his heating element, but he can't find his pan. Oops, there it is. He quickly uses the back of his knife to add some cream cheese to the pan. Using the back of his knife ensures he does not create holes in his metal paper. Once in the pan, he sets it to medium-low heat, and using a spatula, he begins to melt the cream cheese. He's had enough. In comes the mozzarella. Ooh, look at that smoke. It shouldn't smoke. He begins mixing until it begins to melt. Eventually, it turns into a big gloop of cheese. He lowers his heat and continues mixing. In comes the dry mixture. All of it. And just like most baking, begins folding it in. Using some special elbow grease, he mixes it until it becomes homogeneous. Yes, it requires elbow grease. Once the color is satisfactory, he pulls it off the heat. Oh, almost drops it. He brings back his glass container and drops it in. What for? Merely to ensure that it is mixed. He's satisfied. He fetches something. That something is saran wrap, or cling wrap, or plastic wrap, whatever you like to call it. He drops his dough, cuts his wrap, and attempts to wrap it. Brains. This goes into the fridge for about 15 minutes. In the meantime, he preheats his oven. He fetches the dough and puts it back on his cutting board, but he needs to prepare his baking sheet. He lines it with parchment paper and sets it aside. Quickly unwrapping his dough, he places it back onto his cutting board. Cuts it into 8 distinct pieces with 7 cuts. He sets his little triangles to the side and begins rolling one into a dough. Once it's in a dough, he begins rolling it into a rope. The longer and thinner, the better. Using both hands, he quickly turns it into a strand. He then rolls them all into the dough to see if they're all about the same size. He adjusts their weight and goes back to rolling. That looks alarming. If the strand breaks, there's 2 methods you can do. 1, you can roll them separately, or, like this, join them back together. No harm, no foul. Then he brings in his hot dogs, all beef franks, because he only uses the best. He begins rolling them in the dough. Since it's not that stretched, it only lasts about halfway. This stresses the importance of rolling it out thin. He then rolls it to seal the seams against each other. This creates your bagel dog. The best method is to split the strand and roll each one out individually. This ensures a nice, long, even strand. He sets it aside and rolls out the second half. He also dries his dog, because this aids dough sticking to the hot dog. He begins wrapping it in the dough. Half with the first strand, and half with the second strand. Rolling it to seal the seams, he sets it aside. This is how you make a bagel dog. He lines them up like pigs in a blanket and places them on his baking sheet. Now it's time for some butter. He could also use an egg wash, but he prefers butter. Ghee in this case, to be exact. He coats the top with a generous offering. Then he adds some cheddar cheese. Shredded, mind you. Oh, man. He scrapes the cheese off the baking sheet in order to reduce his waste, because he doesn't want to waste cheese. Who does? And into the oven. 2 minutes later, he pulls them out. And these look fantastic. As he lets them cool, he gathers a plate. 1 dog, 2 dog, 7 dog, 8. So if you're craving airport food, this is how you make the bagel dogs. This has been a presentation by Black Tie Kitchen. Until next time, eat well.